how would you characterize Shran? If you had to describe Shran in a couple sentences, how would you describe him?
Angry and suspicious with a short temper.
What drives him? What's his like? What makes him tick?
That's a good question. Love of country, I guess.
Love of his bosses.
He seems to be driven by his own paranoia, honestly. Like anytime he shows up, it's usually the driving point of his story is that he doesn't trust a different race.
Yeah. He's there to make sure that no wrongs are going to be done to Andoria or whatever. Because I just see a lot of commentary and feedback that Shran is Combs' best Star Trek character, and I really don't understand it because I think he's virtually a nothing as a character. I think I even think Combs' performance is just mostly fine. Like he's doing the best he can with this fairly generic character that they keep trying, like they do in this episode, to make it seem like he has a fleshed out personality. So what they do is that they're like, oh, Shran is so volatile and angry, but let's see that he actually has a tender side to him too. Here, he'll meet somebody that he's not completely a jerk to and he has some sympathy for. And you go, okay. But the goal of writing is not to just make incredibly well-rounded characters. Is to have everyone is just fully developed as a person where you have likes and dislikes and stuff. Shran really suffers to me that he has no point of view about things. He only distrusts other alien species. It's not that he has a personal motivation that ever comes through or is the guiding light of how Shran is going to act in the way that you can expect someone like Worf to act or some other character that you know what they are.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think he's a very good character because he doesn't have. If you were to stick if someone were to say you have to write a Star Trek Enterprise episode and Shran has to feature in it, I don't feel that gives you any help in what the episode is supposed to be about or where you can go with what a Shran episode would be about. And we've had 4 seasons of him.
Yeah, I think the thing with Shran is kind of, the Andorians more or less take the place of the Klingons, right? They're not as intense, but they have the same sort of reluctant.
It's like a violent honor culture.
Yeah, violent honor culture with a reluctant working relationship with the humans.
Yep.
The difference is, I don't feel like I've learned anything about the Andorians through Shran. I think Shran fills that role well, and I think Jeffrey Combs plays. I actually really like him when he's on the screen. I think it's a really fun performance because I think you can tell he's having fun chewing the scenery.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with the Klingons, you get more of a feel through the Klingons you are encountering. You get more of a feel what their culture is and what their point of view is. But yeah. Shran has a standoffishness, but I don't feel like I've learned much about Andoria or what they're about or why they operate the way they do or what he's about over 4 seasons, other than he's just kind of distrustful of other species.
Yeah, they feel like a poor man's Klingon to me, and
yeah,
they're that way by just having sort of vague attributes attached to them as the need be. I don't think we'd ever known that they were an honor culture before this last episode, where Shran is like, "You have to fight me based on our Andorian honor culture system."
Right.
Yeah. They invented that because they needed a reason to have a fight.
Yeah.
I just
go ahead.
I
was just going to say with the Klingons, you learn about the Klingon culture because you see how the cultures are different when they clash between the humans and the Klingons. You don't get that with the Andorians. You only get it through plot required stuff like this honor fighting and stuff like that. You never get like the problem of the episode is that the Klingon culture and the human culture, or the Andorian culture and the human culture are clashing in a way that creates the drama of the episode and lets you learn things about, both cultures. You don't get that with the Andorians, the way that you used to with the Klingons, I think.
Yeah, I think it's an enterprise-wide problem. I just don't think they're very good at defining the species in some ways. Like the only one that they've done somewhat effectively have been the Klingons because they know what they're supposed to do with them. I think they botched the Vulcans. They don't really have anything to do with the Andorians. And it was, as we talked about in the previous Telluride episode, the Tellurites don't have a strong enough. It's just that they argue, but that's their only tick. And they don't even really do anything with the fact that that's the only tick of the species, because they don't argue in a way that makes things difficult for an alliance. They just insult each other. I guess I would disagree. I don't really like I just feel Combs is doing generic thug guy here. And if I compare him to someone like Brunt in DS9 as the sort of like IRS version of Ferengi culture, which is like a really funny performance, or Weyoun, which is subtle and slimy and full of like subtle meaning in what he's doing there and how that character acts. I don't think Shran does anything except kind of like growl at the camera and then be nice to people occasionally.
I think what makes him enjoyable, at least for me and probably for other people, is I think Shran is the most Jeffrey Combs character, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like you're seeing more of, and maybe that's not a good thing, because I feel like you're seeing more of Jeffrey Combs coming through where he is. Brunt, I could take or leave. I don't really care for Brunt. But Weyoun is a fully rounded character that is a really great performance. With Shran, it's kind of like two clicks left of Herbert West Reanimator, kind of. Where it's more Jeffrey Combs than it is a character, I think.
Okay.
And I think sometimes that can be. It's like, you watch a movie with Bruce Campbell in it. You're coming to see Bruce Campbell. You don't give a shit what character he's playing. You're coming to see the Bruce Campbell thing. And I think Jeffrey Combs is the same kind of guy.
Right. Yeah, I guess is the argument there that Combs in his performance is almost like quote unquote too good for Enterprise. Therefore, it makes it seem like it's a transcendent performance. I think if Shran was in DS9, he wouldn't be a very memorable character because he would be blocked out by other memorable characters who are on the show. Here, everyone is kind of operating on that low baseline of energy.
Yeah. Well, I think he stands out on this show because he's the only person who has like an ulterior motive. I don't even know if that's not even the right way to say it. He's like more like, I would say he's more like Garrick in places than he is anybody else. And nobody else on this show really has that element to it where there's a little bit of, can you trust this guy? And so I think he stands out on this show because he is kind of really one of the only real morally gray characters. Even though he becomes an ally, I think there is that element of it could go either way with him, and that's what makes him stand out.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would just say that I don't find him morally gray as much as he's written into situations where he will... Well, I guess to be defined as morally gray, I would need to understand what Shran's ethics system is. And I don't think I can define that based on what he is. I know that they'll put him into situations where he is fighting for Andoria, and then once he makes friends with Archer, there's a little bit of, well, I can't completely go for Andoria because I have to help my friend out too. So there's a little bit of like a back and forth there where he will lessen his intensity as the need be in order to get along with people. But I've never seen Shran make a decision where I'm like, wow, that was cold. He did a horrible thing there, and then it flip-flopped
Sure.
you.
Yeah. Well,
he's not
the
actually
show-
all that bad.
Yeah, the show never goes there with most of the characters to the point where, but like, you know, he's the character where in this arc, he's going to make the decision that he thinks is best for Andoria, regardless of what else is going on. So he's gonna break out of his cell and go down to try and interrogate the Tellarites, even though could take the whole ship down or whatever. And then after that, he's the one who's going to chat. You know, he's a little bit of a loose cannon in some aspects, and I don't think the show has many of those. So I think that's why he stands out. Because I guess morally gray wasn't really the right phrase, because I don't really think he's morally gray, because he's not really ever done anything bad.
Bad, yeah.
Like you were saying. But I think it's just more of he has the loose cannon potential that really nobody else in the show has.
Sure. Yeah, because you're dealing with the Vulcans on one hand, who should be restrained, and then the humans are the humans that we're familiar with on this series.